Hey everybody, it's Pastor Steve on the Inner Circle. Hope you're having a really good week. I want to talk to you about often overlooked person in the Bible. Someone who I think really got a rough deal in some cases. She brought it on herself to a little degree, but mostly it was not her fault. And I want to show you what comes out of her experience once she gets to the other side of it. So we're going to talk about the woman Hagar. It's actually she was the servant, an Egyptian servant to Sarah, Abraham's wife. Eventually becomes Abraham's second wife and gives him his firstborn son Ishmael. But before I get any further, let me read it to you from Genesis chapter 16. Okay, I'm just going to read just starting from verse 1. Genesis 16 verse 1. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abraham, "The Lord has prevented me from having children. Go and sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her." And Abraham agreed with Sarah's proposal. So Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian servant, and gave her to Abraham as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. So Abraham had sexual relations with Hagar, and she became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress, Sarai, with contempt. Then Sarai said to Abram, "This is all your fault." Not sure how she got there. "I put my servant into your arms, but now that she's pregnant, she treats me with contempt. Lord will show who's wrong, you or me." Abraham replied, "Look, she's your servant, so deal with her as you see fit." Then Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. Then the angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness, along the road to Shur. The angel said to her, "Hagar, Sarai's servant, where have you come from and where are you going?" "I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai," she replied. Then the angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit to her authority." Then he added, "I will give you more descendants than you can count." And the angel also said, "You are now pregnant and will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael, which means God hears. For the Lord has heard your cry of distress. This son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as a wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility toward all his relatives." Thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord, who had spoken to her. She said, "You are the God who sees me." And that actually is where one of the names of God comes from, the name El-Roi. She called God El-Roi, which means the God who sees me. Now, I think I can relate a little bit to Hagar's situation. You know what I mean? A lot of times, she was a servant from Egypt. She wasn't coming from any kind of real means or anything like that. She was in a good household, very wealthy household. And all of a sudden, through no device of her own, she's elevated to being number two in that household. And once she's pregnant, the pride goes a little bit to her head, and then she starts getting arrogant and cocky, and it costs her deeply. And so she pays the price. But this wasn't all of her making. This is Sarah's idea. I mean, she didn't ask for it. And I don't know if she even had a choice in the matter, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, she's elevated. And then after she's elevated, she does get a little proud and cocky, and then pays a really harsh price for it, and runs away. And I can relate to that. I've gone through seasons in my life where it feels like God has elevated me, and all of a sudden it feels like arrived at a new level, either financially or in the job or in the ministry, or something good is going my way, and then right after that, bam, crash, the hammer comes down, and it just feels like, man, things are worse than they were before. And it's hard to deal with, and I'm sure some of you can relate to that. But what I love is the way the Lord deals with her. He first of all, and this is to her credit, he tells her to go back and submit to Sarah's authority. And to Hagar's credit, she does that. She's obedient to the Lord, and she resubmits to Hagar, which probably was pretty hard to do. And that's lesson number one. Be submitted to wherever God sends you. If you have to go back to a hard situation, but He's telling you to do that, do that. And the reward will be great. She had a promise from God regardless. But she resubmitted herself to Sarah's authority. So that's really to her credit. Then she says that she calls God El-Roi, the God who sees me. So I'm thinking the reason why she said that was because up to that point, she probably felt unseen. I mean, she was a means to an end for Sarah. Not like Sarah cared deeply for her. She was basically a solution to Sarah's problem, and she probably felt used. And that can make you feel very unseen and unheard, almost, unimportant. And the way God deals with Hagar, he makes her feel seen and makes her feel valued. And I just want to say that today, that if you feel like you're going through life unseen, unheard, unvalued, the Lord sees you. He's El-Roi, the God who sees me. He hears. That's why he told her to name her son Ishmael, which means God hears. He hears your cries. He hears your prayers. He sees you. He values you, and he has a plan and a promise for you. I want to remind you of that we serve El-Roi, the God who sees us and he hears us. He cares about you. He sees you. He values you. You're not a means to an end. You're not just a solution to somebody else's problem, but you have your own value, your own personal worth. And that's the way God sees you. And I want to tell you that today. And if you feel like you've gone through that, high, mountaintop experience to the valley where it just felt like everything crashing down, you're not alone. And it may not be the last time you go through it, but no matter what, through high or low, God is the God who sees you. He cares about you, and he has a plan for your life. All right, so I want to leave that with you guys. Be blessed. Looking forward to worshiping with you again on Sunday. We had a really, really good time in his presence on Sunday, and I just want to keep going there. That's my heart's cry. Everything we do in the services does not matter unless God has his way. If the Holy Spirit doesn't get his way, it doesn't matter how good the music is, how good the sermon is, it just does not produce the spiritual life that's necessary, that we all need to live our lives. So come ready to engage, come ready to worship. I'll see you on Sunday. God bless. Bye.